everybody, what's up? So I have had so many people ask me how I moved to Australia and what all the processes are, how much money I needed, where I stayed, all that kind of stuff. And I figured rather than typing it out to each person, I would just make a video on it because I feel like there are tons of people who want to move to Australia because it's a really sick country. And so I'm here to help. So this video will only be about the working holiday visa that you can get in Australia because that's the one that I'm on. I'm now on my second year. So first of all, if you Google working holiday visa Australia, you'll find like extensive PDFs on what you should do, what it entails, all that stuff, but I'm gonna give you the jot notes. So yeah, it's called a working holiday visa. It's subclass 417. If you are a young person between the ages of 18 and 31, you can do this visa. And I'm pretty sure if you're part of the Commonwealth, you can get a second year working holiday visa. Canada can, I know England can, the States can't. You guys can only get a 1 year working holiday visa. You can't extend it. And I think it's because the States don't do any type of working holiday visa, so that's why they're restricted in other countries. It costs $420 to apply, and even if you don't get accepted, you don't get your money back. But unless you have some sort of criminal record or outstanding collections fees or something like that, you're probably gonna get granted one. I applied for it and got my acceptance email 3 hours later. I have never met anyone who had to wait to get granted their first working holiday visa. For my second working holiday visa application, I had heard that it would take up to a couple of months to hear back from them, but I got granted that visa even faster than I did my first visa. I applied for it and within like an hour and a half, I had gotten granted my second year visa. I guess it's all the time of the year, luck of the draw kind of thing. And it costs $420 both times. Also, make sure that when you apply, you have more than a year and a half left on your passport because that could make it take longer for you to be accepted because they want to make sure that you're not going to be stuck in their country without a passport. To move here and work here, you can go through companies that will set you up with everything and like find you a good hostel to stay at and find you some job interviews and stuff, but it's like that kind of takes all the fun out of it. Personally, I came to Australia not knowing anybody except the person I was going over here with. I didn't know where I was going to work. I didn't know where I was going to live. I didn't even know which city to start in. We just picked the Gold Coast because Tasha knew someone here. And Australia is not scary at all for people that will help you out and talk to you and stuff like that. You really don't have to worry about it. Like, don't be anxious about the fact that you don't have stuff figured out. It's best to really not have anything but a loose plan of what you want to do, because chances are you're probably going to change your mind. I initially was planning, since I knew people in Sydney but nowhere else, on coming to the Gold Coast, being there for like 3 months and getting a job and a month-to-month leased apartment there, and then moving to Sydney, and then possibly moving to Melbourne, and then going home after a year. Instead, I came to the Gold Coast, stayed for a little while in a couple of hostels, which in general was fucking awesome. And I highly recommend you stay at a hostel. Don't do a hotel. You'll hate it. It sucks. Got a 6-month lease for an apartment, got a job, and then got a different job because that first job did not work out. And then loved it so much that I ended up spending 7.5 months of my visa in that one place. I didn't end up moving to Sydney at all because I realized I should just forego it, and it was something that I had predetermined in my head but didn't actually want to do. I wanted to move straight from the Gold Coast to Melbourne, but then I didn't even end up doing that. I ended up moving to a rural, like, small town in Victoria, milking cows to earn money to go to Asia and New Zealand and England and extend my visa another year, and then move to Melbourne and then go back to Canada. If you plan too much, you're gonna end up stifling yourself. Believe me on that. I used to be the biggest worrywart when it came to traveling because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I should probably have something figured out. But now I just realized that it's best to really just kind of go with the flow. See how you feel when you go to some place. Give it a little bit of time, because at first I hated the Gold Coast and then I started to really friggin' like it. Give yourself a bit of time. Move to another place if you'd like. What's good about traveling is that it's all up in the air. It's all your choice. As I said before, Tasha and I, before signing the lease, stayed at a couple of different hostels. The first hostel we stayed at was in Brisbane because that's where we landed, and this was like a little bit from the airport. And we stayed there and we're like, yeah, we freaking love Brisbane, woohoo! Because we actually really liked the hostel because it was really cool. Like, it was awesome. Then when we came to the Gold Coast, we came to Surfers Paradise and we went to this one hostel and we hated it. Like, we hated it. We decided when we first got there to purchase a week with that hostel ahead of time, and it was a really bad choice. We shouldn't have done that because the hostel just wasn't for us. So after about 4 days there, we canceled the rest of our days, got our money back, which was cool, and then stayed with someone that Tasha knew in the Gold Coast. Now that was really good because it enabled us to get a job and land on our feet and stuff like that. But then all of a sudden, for a couple of different reasons, not in a bad way though, we went back to a different hostel in Surfer's Paradise, and we were only supposed to be there for like 2 nights. We ended up staying there for a week and a half because it was the best hostel I've ever seen. It was so simple in its intentions to just get everybody to mingle and talk to each other and play volleyball together and go bodyboarding together. It was like a really, really good time. And that was where I met some of my closest friends that I still have here that I will stay friends with for the rest of my life. I know it. At that hostel. People who've never traveled on their own before are really afraid to stay at hostels because they think they'll be unsafe, they think they won't have anybody to talk to, they think they'll be more comfortable in a hotel room, stuff like that. But the whole point of traveling isn't to keep you in your comfort zone. Lord knows I have learned that. You're supposed to push yourself and grow as a person. And if you're traveling by yourself, which I am right now, because Tash and I have split ways because she's doing her farm work somewhere else. I am doing Asia with one of my friends, but I'm doing New Zealand and England by myself and the rest of the Australia trip. And there are tons more things that I still need to learn about traveling that I know I'm going to learn when I go to Asia and when I actually backpack on my own later on this year. And I will do an updated, tips when traveling abroad after I come back to Canada, because then I feel like I'll actually know what the frig I'm talking about. Okay, back to the visa. Make sure that when you apply, you have several $1,000s in your account. You guys remember when I went to Sydney with Scott in 2013? That's when I decided that I was actually going to move here, like actually do it. So I decided for the rest of 2013 into May 2014, I was going to earn as much money as I possibly could to move to Australia. Australia is extremely expensive, and a flight, depending on what season you fly in, could range, if you got it for super, super cheap, anywhere from $1,700 for a round trip to $3,000 for a round trip. Now, I don't recommend you actually buy a round trip ticket. I bought a round trip ticket, and that flight back already left. That's like half of that ticket completely down the drain for me because I decided to stay. Again, you don't know what you're gonna do. So I would recommend, especially if you're gonna travel afterwards, like on your way home and everything, and because you're almost definitely going to change your mind, buy a one-way. Besides, if you booked a round trip ticket, your return home can't be more than a year after you book it. So if you wanted to stay, you can't actually move it any further than the year mark because then it expires. So for all intents and purposes, other than the fact that it might be a couple $100s less expensive to buy a round trip in the long run, you won't actually want to do that because it'll be putting yourself in a box of traveling, which you don't want to do. When you earn your money for when you move here, I would recommend having at least, I know this sounds like a lot, after the ticket, $5,000, but it'll go really, really fast here. I came to Australia with $8,000 after my ticket, and it went down to about $4,000 without me even frivolously spending anything. Like it's super expensive here because the minimum wage is $18 for waitressing and like 22 for other things and 24 per hour for other things. So what's good is that, like, yeah, your money will convert into less when you bring it over here, and yes, it is more expensive, but yes, it will pay you heaps more and you'll earn stuff back. Like, as long as you come here and get a job, you're gonna be in good hands. If you're coming here just to backpack, you gotta learn how to stretch your dollar. I don't even know how to really do that in Australia because Australia is more expensive than the States and Canada. Sydney by itself is ranked the world's most expensive city to live in. But I'm not saying this to discourage you because I really do think that you should come to Australia. You should, because it's so sick here. It's fucking awesome. But you just gotta be prepared. Another reason for having that much in your account is that the Australian government does random audits of people's bank accounts to make sure that they're not just coming here to be a homeless person on their street and using up their resources and everything and not actually contributing. So you've got to have at least, I think, 4 or 5 grand in your account, or you should, when you're applying. But I met someone who needed to send over copies of their bank statements to the government to prove that they had enough in their account. And they had to actually borrow money from their parents because they didn't have that money. So they transferred it over, transferred it back to their parents, and then just came here with less money. So you just kind of do it at your own risk. Also, when you're packing for Australia, don't do what I fucking did, because I packed 2 big suitcases along with a handbag thing and a backpack, and it motherfucking killed. It was awful. I'm gonna be sending at least one of my suitcases home, and I've bought a travel backpack for Asia because it is just damn impractical to be traveling around with that much stuff. You never use it. Like, I only use like the same like 25 things over and over again, and yet I packed hundreds of things. So if you're packing to go anywhere, take out like half of your stuff, because you're gonna hate the past you for putting the future you in this much turmoil. To earn your second year visa, you have to do 3 months of regional work. Now, I made a really shitty mistake when I came to rural Australia, because I went with someone who was prepared to give me a second year visa by me illegally doing different work for them. I know that sounds really bad. It's not like the actual work was illegal, but I was going to do something else for them, but since they owned a farm, they were going to sign off on it anyway. That didn't friggin' work out. Like, in every single way, it didn't work out, and I also wasn't getting paid for it, and also they're not signing off on the 3 weeks I had already done. So make sure when you find regional work, you just kind of fucking suck it up and milk cows, pick mangoes, pick avocados, pick blueberries, pick bananas, landscape, mine, whatever you need to do, because you'll be paid friggin' well for it. And since you'll be in a rural area, you won't really have much opportunity to spend it, so you'll save heaps to keep traveling after that. And it's also the really best and most legal way to get a second year visa. I wasted my time at the beginning of this year because I thought that I was going to be able to cut corners because I had heard of other people doing that. But it's just a stupid decision. Like, if you find somewhere, it's really bright. If you find somewhere, whatever. If you find somewhere that will do it and you've worked it all out and stuff like that, and then you get granted your second year visa, good on you. But I was having such a shitty time at the first place that it wasn't freaking worth it at all. And maybe I'll end up doing a video about it at some point, but right now I'm too physically close to them to have those repercussions bounce back on me. You have to have all 3 months done in order to apply for your visa. I'm doing extra work to earn extra money before Asia. Before you move, you've got to make sure you get health insurance. Like, for sure you need to. I went with CAA at home. They do this 365 daily insurance thing, and it'll only last for a year, so I'm signing up with a different insurance company now. Before you leave though, you have to make sure that that is all figured out. You have to tell them the day that you're leaving. You also have to tell the health people that, you know, that where do you go? Same office that you get your driver's license. I'm pretty sure you go there. And you can talk to them, tell them that you're traveling. You fill out this form saying that you will be traveling, and you can be gone at one time for up to 2 years before you're no longer legally covered under Canada's health laws. I'm not actually going to stay for the full 2 years, so I don't have to worry about that. But I did set it up so that in case I stayed an extra year, they knew that I was going to be gone for 2 years. And so now as soon as I come back to Canada, I have to tell them that I'm back so that they can put me back on their health card system. I don't know if I'm explaining this right. You basically just have to make sure you tell the government that you're leaving so that they know that they will need to cover you health-wise over here. Also sign up with an insurance company so that they can coordinate it back at home. Honestly, if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments and I will explain it. Also, to buy my ticket for Australia, I used Kayak. Now, kayak.com, Scott showed me it when we were going to Sydney together in 2013, but Kayak tells you when the prices for flights are gonna go down and up and stuff like that, and you can compare Kayak to all of the other help with travel sites to basically see who's gonna give you, you know, the cheapest flight. Now what you can do is if you find a good flight but don't want to pay the kayak fees or the hot wire fees or whatever, say there was a really good sale with Qantas, whom I highly recommend flying with for as long a flight as it is from North America to Australia. Say there's a sale with them and Kayak shows you and finds the sale for you and everything. But if you go through Kayak, Hotwire, what have you, they're gonna put in a fee for using their services. So if you find one, then go onto that actual airline's website and find the flight, because then you won't have to pay any extra fees. Okay, I've got to go to work now, so I'm sorry that this video is kind of cut off. But if you have any more questions about this, or if you want me to make another video about something that I totally didn't even touch on, then let me know in the comments and I will answer them, or I'll just make a new video about it, okay? Okay, I love you guys a lot and I'll see you all next Thursday. Bye!